Hey everybody, welcome to our last. I'm trying to
Hey,
not
we're live.
peek and yell. Welcome
Hey,
to our last session of Balikbayan Into the Dark. I can't believe we're already here at this. It's been the weeks really passed by super quickly with such a great group. So for now, this will be the last time that we're going to first introduce ourselves before the end of the show. I'll go ahead and start. My name is Jamie. I use they them pronouns, and I made this game Balikbayan. I'm still in the middle of working on it. It's gone through a lot of iterations, and my patrons already got early access to this current version that we're using here, and I'm super grateful for this group helping me further refine the game while also just having great characters. We're having a fun time together. It's good to be a game creator. That's an awesome perk of the job. So that's me. And we're going to go in reverse character keeper order, which means we'll go Agatha, Connie, John, Ting, and Leandro. So Agatha, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
yeah, hi everyone. I'm Agatha. My pronouns are she, her, and I am usually the co host of the Asians Represent podcast and also the Wrap Up, which is a show that we have at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Fridays. So, the same time, talk about topics in gaming. So I believe it will be next week that we're actually going to be talking about horror, which is exciting and terrifying for me because I'm scared of all things horror. But that's fine. I'll take one for the team. In this game, I'm playing Mary, whose pronouns are also she, her, and she is a Santalmo. And her fate is thus far still up in the air because things happened last time that don't bode very well for her. So I don't know if she's alive or dead, and I don't know if she will be really restricted by that either. So that'll be exciting to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, and Connie.
Hey everyone, my name is Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. I play Grist, your Aswang. Pronouns are also she, they, he, and it. You can find me on Twitter at by Connie Chung. I also am the GM and executive producer behind a little stream project called Transplanar RPG. We are an all transgender, people of color led Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition live stream actual play campaign set in a homebrew, non colonial, and anti Orientalist world. We stream Saturdays at 3 p.m. Central US time, and our next episode comes out this Saturday. We'd love to have y'all join us. You can stay hip to what we're up to on Twitter at Transplanar RPG. We're a friendly bunch, and I am currently working on converting our past streams into a listenable podcast format. So if that's more accessible to you, we'd love to have you join us for that. Stay tuned on our Twitter, and I'll pass things along to John.
Yeah, I'm bad at catching. Don't do that. Hello, my name is John. You can find me over on Twitter at Ryamasa, RY0MASA. With the conclusion of this show, now I only do one more show. Very sad. So sad. But that is Entangled on Unmade Gaming, which is an Expanse RPG that runs 8 to 10 p.m. EST on Thursdays. So Tamara. And then I also stream. I'm a variety Twitch streamer at Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. EST, doing pretty much any game I have that kicks around in my mind. But a lot of the Outriders demo recently, a lot of looter shooters just to keep the arbitrary numbers going burr in the face of existential dread. But also going to be starting doing a little bit of a music stream. I do a little bit of like music production on the side, kind of as a hobby, working in things like Cakewalk and with VSTs to create original music. So if you want to learn about music production, if you want to see what all those buttons and knobs are and know that you can make music without knowing what half of what them do, check it out. And hopefully I'll see you around. And I'm passing it over to, I think, Ting.
Hi, I'm Ting. Pronouns are he, him. I'm on Twitter at TingTut. Tuesday nights, playing a risk campaign over at Nerds with Dice. I play, in this game, I play Kristen, the Everlasting. Pronouns are they, them. They're the Wada, controller of the elements, like Avatar. And now to Leandro.
Hi, my name's Leandro. You see him pronouns. You can find me on Twitter at lpondoc. That's LPONDOC. The thing that I've been plugging for the past month has come and gone. Roll Plus Bond charity stream. I will say you can still donate to. You go to donate.rollplusbond.com. You'll find a Tiltify page where we were raising funds for the Native American Rights Fund. You can still donate until midnight tonight. Which is on Eastern Standard Time. It's confusing me because it's just 11 past midnight where I am. But y'all can still donate. There's like you got 5 more hours or so. I think. I'm not sure. I think so. Time zones, what are they? So I have nothing else left to plug other than I don't know. I might be releasing my first game next week, but you don't need to know about that.
Oh,
Anyway,
we do need to know
Yeah.
about it.
no, you know what? You're gonna have to watch. I'm gonna plug that at the end of the session. So
Ah.
Make
Yeah.
us wait.
Sneaky.
Yeah. Other than that, I play as Maria, who is the Tikbalang, uses any and all pronouns. There are a lot of identity issues all wrapped up. That's what happens when you smoosh several spirits together. But it worked out well for them. Well, kind of worked out for them. They stopped the fire last week that they kind of caused by freaking anyway, it's a lot of stuff. There was a fire and some mirrors. It worked out okay in the end.
What's important is we clean up our own messes as best as we can. That's okay. But yeah, and so before we jump into it, I'd like to briefly describe the safety tools that we're using today. So safety tools are super important to us at our table, at any table, to make sure everyone is having a good time, everyone is comfortable, and safety tools are a way to help us communicate more clearly with each other. So the safety tools that we're using today are a combination of lines and veils, script change, and an open door policy. So I'll briefly describe those. The open door policy means that for any of us, if we need to get up and leave the game for whatever reason, if we need to take a break, or if we just need to drop out of the game, then that's totally fine. What's important is we put ourselves first. If you can let us know that you're going, or if you'll be back, that's great. If you can't, that's also great. As long as you're taking care of yourself, it's totally fine. And we also have, I forgot to mention, we also have a romance check-in. So we checked in with everyone if they were comfortable with having romance for their characters, and with PCs and NPCs, or if there was an ask first. So we checked in on that, which is, I highly recommend doing that bit of check-in. And then we also have script change. So this is, script change by itself is a tool that you can use as you like. So the parts of script change that I'm using are, we have pause when we want to, actually I was going to say it's kind of like the VHS, but I realized we don't use those anymore. Right? Do we have we have a rewind, but anyway, I'm going to stop having my existential dread moment. Okay, so we have pause, meaning can we check in about something if we have a question, if we want to remove something from the game, if we want to say we're not okay with something, we use pause. Then stop if we want to take a break, and then fast forward for let's get to the next scene, let's not linger in this moment too much. And finally, we have rewind. This is, I feel, the most important. So rewind is I'm going to change or retcon something that happened, right? So there's no such thing as just because it happened in the game and the story, it's unmovable. That's not true, right? We're playing make-believe, right? So we can change anything, we can rewind to anything, and we can just come up with something new because we are creative people and safety comes first, right? And lastly, we have lines and veils. So lines are things that will absolutely not come up in the game. They won't feature in our story at all. And veils are things that may come up in the game, but it'll happen off screen. We won't go into too much detail. It won't be a focus of the story. And we also have an ask first, which is we're okay with having it in the story in the game, but we'd like to check in and ask first. So I'm going to just briefly describe what our lines and veils are, just so that people have an idea for how that works. So our lines for this game are harm to animals, harm to children, homophobia, racism, sexual assault, slavery, and risk gore. And then we have veils on eye injuries, graphic gore, and torture, transphobia. And we have an ask first for bullying, pandemic/virus, sexual content, and suicide. So those are our lines and veils. Those are, and then we went over script change and everything. Yeah, I think those are safety tools. I'd love to see, we talked about this before coming on, but we'd love to see more people talking about safety tools on stream. So yeah, okay, cool. All right, and then so what we're gonna do next is we unlock the lab. I may have also placed Mary in the lab, so we'll see how that goes. When I say I mean the Corp, so we'll see how that goes. So we unlocked a new part of the map. The lab, the Corp once performed the worst of its experiments here, but abandoned it suddenly. Flood water and punishing storms reclaimed the land, drowning its secrets and victims. But if we unearth enough of its secrets, we can become stronger. So I will outright say this is inspired by all the flooding I used to experience in my area. It used to be normalized, like it's much better now, I want to say, but it used to be that the water would reach almost up to the neck and we'd have people on boats. This is like the city, right? Like, I just want to point that out. This is like a busy metropolitan area. But anyway, so let's take turns choosing. I know that John was really excited about unlocking this particular one, so I'd love to hear like your feedback the most. So that being said,
honestly, I was just excited to unlock everything in this game, just like in general. So I have I don't have a specific desire for the lab. I'm super cool with everything. I just wanted to unlock like as many things as possible because I'm a completionist.
Awesome. Yes. I can relate. I'm in the middle of a game, finishing a game, and I'm trying to get everything. Yeah. So for the leader, just because this is our last session, I don't know if we're going to interact with them too much, but hopefully they'll at least show up. But the leader of the area. So we have our choices are Sparkle, a former Corp hollow idol and refugee. Habagat, a Sirena and failed revolutionary. So Sirena is like a mermaid, right? So and then Void, the little god of hunger and secrets, and Alikina, a duende on the very edge of fading, right? So they have very little of their magic left. Which one are we interested in possibly interacting with? I see Agatha's excited.
Void. Little god.
Perfect. Let's do it. I also like the idea that maybe they're connected to despair somehow. Sounds like a very despair kind of thing. Okay, we'll see. And then for the lab aesthetics, so we have a few choices, and we'll take turns choosing one. So we have an ocean of brightly colored waves that cause temporary synesthesia. I wrote this and I knew I wasn't going to be able to pronounce it. Synesthesia. That condition where you're able to do things like hear colors or feel sound, right? So I have quite a few friends who have this, and I just love trying to include something like that. And then next is rotting structures crammed full with the desperate, subtle signs of radiation that create another layer of reality. So that might be interesting, right? Because we have the augmented reality of the sensorium, and this one is like an actual other layer of reality. Anyway, stars and a moon that shine even during brightest day. An orange haze that lingers over everything and leaves behind glistening residue. I really like the second Blade Runner movie. So, but yeah. And then communities built around trash and the discarded, wild storms of magic, if we want to go all out. The soft sound of static and ocean washing away everything else, flooded tunnels and abandoned experiments, or the remnants of an ancient city glimmering in the depths. So let's ask, Connie, which one are you most excited about?
Oh, these are all so interesting. I really like the remnants of an ancient city glimmering in the depths. Not gonna lie.
Very
Just the
cool,
idea of
very
like
cool.
being able to connect with the path, with the past in a really tangible way, resonates with me.
Ooh, I like that a lot. That's very cool. Yeah, awesome, awesome. Okay, and then let's ask John, which one would you like to pick from these aesthetics?
What was the one that we just got again?
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
the remnants of an ancient city glimmering in the depths.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of like I like the idea like the lab is like it's flooded, but like it's very clearly got way too much depth than it should, right? So I kind of want to double down on that and add the soft sounds of static in the ocean. So like the water there clearly seems bigger in that space than it could possibly be in the remnants of a flooded area.
Very cool, very cool. I love that a lot. Yeah, and then let's see, Leandra, what would you like to pick for the third
I was
one?
gonna pick if you had let me, because I don't know. The sounds of ocean reminds me of, I don't know, nostalgia for some reason, and everyone is kind of like been running away from their old self in many ways. It's kind of like the theme of what our character's been up to. But now that that's been
True,
picked, I have to
true.
pick something else. Oh no! If only the rest of the other choices are just as good. Uh,
Damn, Leandra.
what? What? That was a compliment. Okay, so we got yeah. These are all really good. Let's do subtle signs of radiation to create another layer of reality. Let's like really drop our characters in a existential like mindscape.
Yes, 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 absolutely. I love it. This is a very interesting combination. So we have our remnants of an ancient city, the soft sound is static, and subtle signs of radiation. Very cool stuff. So let's choose. I think, yeah. So I'll go through the threats. We may choose just one, or we could choose two that will combine. So I'll read through it. So the remains of a powerful psychic floods the lab with painful visions. This is my Acura, one of my many Acura like things. Those that survive the Corp experiments hide in the shadows. Wow, in the water, that's kind of cool. Radiation storms bring to life the fear of those who live in the area. No big deal. The lab has become sentient and uses the desperate to fulfill its agenda. Wow, I forgot I wrote that. That's intense. Okay. The gift of old Jamie. What were they thinking? Next, Leviathans of magic, of machine and magic, shake the foundations, threatening to flood the entire city. And the lab makes doppelgangers that infiltrate and await orders. And lastly, something else that piques our curiosity in case you want to build something else. So, Ting, out of all of these ones, which one is like exciting for you?
Oh, the lab is sentient. Yeah,
I love it so much. Oh my
like
gosh.
kind of want to combine it with the Leviathan, like how the whole lab is like becoming a Leviathan.
Oh, how does everyone
Nice.
feel about that? Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's a great combination. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, so that is our lab threads. Oh, this is so good. I feel like it's something that the Corp like started and lost control of, right? That's very cool. Okay, and then we get to, because we unlocked specifically, so I want to, yeah, because we unlocked, we get to have an extra lab move and a lab secret, right? So this is, once again, a lab move is how we as characters can earn tokens. So this is stuff that you would like to try to hit and get a token for. So we have gain strange and terrible abilities for a time, because I love giving players more power. Then call out to the Serena and receive their wisdom through song and dream. So once again, the Serena are mermaids. It's up to us to say what they are as elementals if we want to, who also escape the Corp. And then help the desperate make this a true home. So this means interacting with the people who live here. Bridle the torment of those who survived the experiments. This is probably going to come up with the kind of lab we've played so far. Explore the flooded labyrinth of what remains. This could also come up. And explore the deeper depths of the neon storms or the radiated ocean. So which one are we think will most likely hit as characters?
I think gain strange and terrible abilities for a time, because everyone was, because all of our wishes were like, take on the core.
Yeah, so let's do it. That's cool. I like it. Yeah, all right. And then so we have a lab secret. So this is something to color it. A revelation of some kind. So it's interesting. I think I can sort of see which ones might already connect, but happy to have a new one. So the Serena sing far below the waves, awaiting the right harmonies to awake from the night. An ancient sentient weapon sleeps under the waves, awaiting a signal from the Corp. The radioactive psychic energies were once the Wada, turned into pure energy, their identities erased. Or the Corp still operates in the area in secret. The years of experimenting on elementals will soon reveal great power. And then the cult of static worship the sacred glitch. They offer the drug snow that allows travel in the broken spaces of augmented reality. And the last one is the Bakunawa awaits in the depths. It's eclipse protocols bearing stolen magic from the heart of the city. So the Bakunawa is like in traditional Filipino folklore, is this huge sea serpent dragon-like creature that ate most of the moons and left us with just the one, is the original story. So, but yeah, which one are we? I feel like we're sort of leaning towards the Bakunawa, like maybe the lab is going to turn into the Bakunawa. But what do we think? What else are we excited about?
Big ocean that's bigger than it should be. Big snake bigger than should be. Just saying.
Yeah. I think we're going for the Bakunawa. So, Bakunawa is always a good choice. Okay, very cool. So and now we're going to jump in. I'm super excited about this. I think so far we've done previously in Balikbayan, but I think for this final episode session, I'd love it if we jump forward and we cut to either what happens immediately, like right after things ended in the last session, or if we, like, maybe we can take turns, right? Like slowly moving forward until we are already in the lab. I think that might be kind of cool, but how does everyone feel about that? Were the directions clear? Okay. I feel like maybe we should start with Grist, because Grist got the worst news. In fact, let's go in character keep order, but we're going to start with Grist, and then we'll loop back around, right? So we'll start with Grist, then Xander, Chrysa, Ismeria, then we'll end on Mary, so we can see what Mary is like up to. Right, it'll be this mysterious, right? Okay, so yeah, let's start with, just to set the scene again, right? So right after this happened, Grist, you just saw Mary start to like vanish and flicker and fade, because Mary had pushed too much of herself. She had given too much of her magic in this moment to try to help the forest, and now she's no longer there. You can't feel her weight on your back, and you're seeing all these broken mirrors with her as a child before she became a Santelmo looking back at you. What do you do?
And I think it ended with like a skeletal hand coming out of the
That's
earth,
right. I did do that. Would you like me to lead a little bit more on what happens with that skeletal hand? And then
sure. Go for it.
Yeah. So like, that's actually one of Jamie's favorite tricks, skeletal hands. Anyway, so the hand reaches out and and grabs you. And in the distance, right, we see river, we see the forest creatures over there in the distance, but near you is Rose. And the moment Rose sees the hand, she starts to freak out. She's nowhere near as strong as you, right? So she tries to pull you away from it, but the hand has you in this vice grip and it starts to pull you into the earth. And you see that your own, because you've been using these like bone protrusions the whole time, your skin is starting to turn into bone, right? And you notice that the bone skeletal hand has these inscriptions on it. It moves back and forth between what looks like ancient runes, but also like programming, like gibberish language. Like you can tell it's some form of weird machine magic that's pulling you down. And Rose is absolutely panicking. And Rose looks at you and she says, it's holding on to, you have to let go.
I'm going to use my weak move and ask what horrors await me.
Perfect. Go ahead and take a token.
Hey.
And I'm going to say that underneath is, they've been burrowing their way through the forest this whole time trying to reach you. But this is every single person you've had to kill for the Corp so far.
Oh boy, so that's a lot of people, eh? Okay, so Grist is standing there, bone on bone, right? Like the cartilage and the marrow webbing its way up one muscular forearm, and she like tries pulling, but she can't. You know, like it's hardening over her, and it's beginning to like creep all the way up her elbow. She turns to Rose and just says, "Run."
Yeah, and Rose looks at you, and she throws her arms around you for a moment. Come back to me no matter what. And she runs off.
And then I think Grist opens up, sort of like a flower in bloom. Just like her and the entire, like her back just sort of like splits open, like a bean bag that's filled with too many beans, and she just sort of ruptures open at the seams, and she unfurls, and out comes just like darkened, scorched wood, and huge spires of just like red streaked bone and cracked open marrow, and struts and iron, and brick, and a building begins to unfurl, from Grist, like the world's most awful orchid springing out of her body, and it begins to like propagate rapidly, very much like that scene from Akira, but it's like flesh and steel all coming out of her, and you can't even see like her anymore. You can't see Grist. Grist has become a structure, a building. You see like doors springing, hallways of just like cartilage and flesh just webbing its way down. You see windows made of glistening fat, as well as like, you know, like glass like coming out and causing like kaleidoscopic patterns through like the light filtering through it, and it begins to take over the meadow. And it begins to expand like this like parasitic growth all over this forest. And I think where it touches, it sort of incorporates into its body. And it sort of fans out where Grist is sort of like the eye of the storm. And you can't see it anymore, but coming out from it, what would be interesting? I think a really tall spire, just a very big, tall spire of a bony building erupts. And it looks, I don't know if you can see this, Xander, maybe this is good time to pass the baton on to you. There's something about this building that feels familiar, right? That feels like it's stirring something in, I think maybe in your consciousness, especially as you're learning more and more about who you used to be. But it's like a nightmarish bone version of what you might recognize. And I have a question
myself.
Yeah, you sure did, buddy. I have a question for Jamie and also for my fellow players, which is, Jamie, I'm not sure what your plan or an idea you had was for getting us to the lab, but I wrote as a wish for this session. It doesn't have to happen, but this is just an option to help tie things together. That Grist's building form, which is her true form as an Aswang, can maybe like teleport people from place to place. It can act as like a nexus.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. I think that's absolutely what happens, right? We can see like past the windows, like reality is like starting to degrade and shift, and we can see different parts of the city like showing up in different parts of the windows and the rooms, right? Different passages.
I love that.
Yeah, it's basically like Persona horror, right? Persona the
Yeah.
video game, like
Yes,
full on
yes,
with the horror just
100%.
like that up to 11. So Xander, on that note,
Aha. Ah. So I think Xander starts to see I think Xander was busy trying to help 4 different people at once. But it's kind of hard to ignore right? So I think he turns and he just kind of freezes up and stops. There is like brief moments of recognition and confusion clashing in his eyes as this building starts to take shape and grow and sort of dominate the skyline, as it were. And I think this is a really good time to use a weak move here. I'm going to ask, how does my magic flicker and fade as Xander's memories of who he is start to fade away for a moment as Eli's come rushing back?
Gosh, does anyone have I do have an answer. It's a painful one though. Does anyone else want to jump in with an answer? Just in case. Okay, I think what happens is as Xander fades and Eli starts to assert themselves, you can feel this sense of pride and satisfaction as you look at the building, as you see it come together. And you say, yes, the Nexus, just as I planned, one of the most important steps to the plan. And so you know that there is a room that you have to enter. You know that I think we're going to like quickly flash back, and John, I want you to jump in at any point to like correct me or add stuff, right? But I think like we see quick flashes of you talking to Grist, asking Grist to get rid of Mary, who was a problematic elemental who was getting in the way of things, because Mary was just picking up too many secrets. There was just too much that she was accessing. But you knew full well you could have asked someone else to do this. You asked Grist on purpose because it's kind of like the sensation of like, what would happen? How far can I push Grist? Right.
Mm-hmm. That checks out.
And then we see like the quick flashes of Grist showing up and Chryson and River and things like at the building, like as Grist was forming with it, right? And I think we just see a very calm Eli get up from the desk and just very quickly like go through, like they're touching parts of their desk to like activate what they need, putting everything in a suitcase, in a briefcase very neatly to make sure everything will go to plan. And then turning to the screen and being like, the Corp can't keep me away from the power I seek. I'll get to that city. I'll get to the Bakunawa, no matter what.
Oh shit, that's my plan. Oh no, okay, good.
And so I think this is how we explain that the Nexus will directly lead you to the lab, because this is what Eli wanted all this time.
Love it. Absolutely sounds good to me.
And I think the last thing that happens before the memory fades is Eli looking back, and then there's like this huge vat, and we see a figure in it, but we can't really make out the features. It's just a lot of hair hiding the face. And Eli says, no matter what, I'll reclaim what the Bakunawa stole from you. And then it fades.
Okay. I'm excited to find out what that is.
So my question, Xander, is how do you enter the Nexus to get to the lab? Like, because these memories are like guiding you, right? So what does it look like?
Yeah. I think so. The cool thing about the Saint, and the cool thing I think about, the interesting thing about the way that the Saint works, the way both Xander and Eli were both technically saints, but of different things. The protocols are still there. It's just which set you're tapping into now, right? So I think Xander's old magic of like what he tried to use to help and protect and that kind of thing is fine, but Eli's our overriding. It's all access of how to break and how to intrude and how to invade. So I think the building just if like kind of almost almost outdated in this sense is, you know, like it's got one of those very like doors with one of those those black card readers kind of in the side, right? Like, and that's old technology as far as our world is concerned, but Eli kind of does that kind of like the sort of like motion that you have like the card like people who are good at sleight of hand does, and kind of over like out from the back of his head out like his hand out like overwrites series of protocols that turn and sort of coalesce into like hard light that create sort of like a card that he puts up against the door as it slides open, and then sort of flicks it back. It sort of disappears and vanishes behind his hand again and dissolves back into nothingness as he walks in the door.
Very cool, very cool. And so we cut to Chrysan. So, Kristen, you see that the forest is being overwhelmed by this building that is part bone, part glass, part flesh, part magic. And you can see the forest is adapting to it, right? The forest understands that if it does not adapt to the situation, it's not going to survive. And in particular, you see Maganda and Malakas, the sentries of the forest. These tree-like guardians, they are shielding the most vulnerable. They're trying to protect the guardian spirit, the large fox, to make sure that it's not absorbed by the building, but they look at you desperately. What do you do?
So this building, it reminds the Crescent of the. It looks very familiar to them, and it reminds them of the building that they destroyed, where Eli saw their full power, and they're kind of drawn to it like a moth to a flame, like they're sort of confused that this building has returned. They just sort of slowly walk into it, drawn to it, but at the same time, reacting on instinct to use their power to protect the forest. I'm going to use strong move, make what you hope for more real.
And what you hope for is to revive and rebuild the dying forest. So this is the perfect time to use that move. What does it look like?
You have the building spreading out, incorporating parts of the forest, but then the pieces of mirror that have the reflections of the forest, of how it once was, that begins to start to become real and enter this reality. So whatever is in the mirror, it's flooding into the forest and revitalizing it.
Awesome. And I feel like the building, the Nexus, is still tunneling towards the lab, but now that the forest, I feel like the mirrors are like shattering as the past starts to come back into the present, using and building on Chrysan's power. I think our other Dewata 024 joins you. Like, she reaches out to hold your hand, and she says, "Together we can do this." And for the first time, you see hope on her face, like you've never seen it before since you first met her. And the whole forest fills with light. I think there's a moment where the only thing we see that's not light is of the building and the spire reaching out towards the sky as the forest comes together. And this is definitely that dramatic moment where the music swells in this kind of temple-like sound, I think. And we see Maganda and Malakas look up, and their roots start sprouting and blossoms start to fall from their branches. And I think we're going to cut to Ismeria. How do we all end up in the lab together? Or do you have a different idea for what happens to Ismeria?
Yeah, I think it takes a while for the camera and like the quote unquote show to notice amidst all this chaos, all this that's happening. It's like it's suddenly, I think it's almost like when it's like kind of like settling, once like the forest is like doing their work, suddenly there's kind of like realization like, where's this Maria? What happened to them? Because the last time we saw them, they were just like recovered from having the little god of despair pick at them, and directing that fire into the spirit realm. Um, I think like the camera pans across like the forest as it's like pouring into like the Nexus, and all the glass like shattering. But I think it managed to find like a mirror that isn't shattered, um, that's been kind of like reformed, and it's like a full proper like pane of glass, and inside you can see like a glimpse of the swirling forming chaos of the spirit realm. And I'm going to use my weak move, which is to embody what corrupts the spirit realm. And I think like we pan to the glass and then we cut to the edge of the lab. And I think almost like there's a figure kind of like waiting at the edge of the lab, almost like waiting for this horrific grist building to show up. It's going to show up soon. Probably bringing the forest along with it. God. And Eli and all other kinds of horrors. But yeah, there's like there's like at the edge of the lab, which I guess we'll detail when everyone gets here. There's like a figure standing, and for a moment you see like all the hollow screens flicker around their face. I think they like flicker. All of them kind of like slowly flicker off one by one, and they all kind of like descend to show like this again, this wavy black lightning matter form, and then it slowly coalesces, and again to that face that kind of showed up and talked to Kristen last week. This like white haired, or this was it blonde haired? It's been a week. It's been a week. But yeah, I would say like white haired like figure, who looks very put together, in a kind of like delicate kind of like way, and they're just waiting and watching. What I mean when I use that move, embody what corrupts the spirit realm. The thing that corrupts the spirit realm is, at least to my mind, is like I think we talked about last week. Spirit realm is kind of like a repository of like knowledge and info, of like dreams of the unconscious. And it's one thing when it takes in like little bits and pieces. It's another when like a full person enters the spirit realm and brings all their contradictions all at once. So I don't know how this duende got in there. Maybe they wanted to go in there. Who knows? We did talk about this duende was the one who invented the enslavement protocol, so they're probably not a great person. But seems they've taken control of Ismeria for the moment, and they're waiting at the lab.
Ooh, and I think when that happens, before we see what Mary is up to, I think next to you we see this figure that looks an awful lot like the same hair that's flowing back and forth from what we saw of Eli's past. And even though they're above the water, it looks like their hair is moving like they are underwater. And they turn to you and they say, "It's been a long time. I've collected what secrets I could for you, but I'm so, so hungry." And we see that it's Void, the little god of hunger and secrets. And so we cut to Mary. So Mary, we are in the lab would you like me to set up what it looks like, or do you want to go in and describe that before we see what Mary is up to, or in the clutches of maybe?
No, go for it.
But yeah, I think just to build off of the beautiful choices everybody made, I think as we see the building and the spire and the Nexus reach out towards the lab, I think we cut to a moment where we pull back and we see that we're at the very edge of the city, and a lot of it has like fallen into the water. There are these huge waves that keep crashing in. There's this perpetual storm, but the sound of the ocean is just overwhelming. It doesn't sound like normal water crashing against the concrete and the land. And we see like abandoned buildings broken apart, torn apart by the ocean, but there's just this sound of static over everything, and this whispering, hushing sound over and over again. And we see like the layers of the radiation. It's sort of like moves in like just different wisps of color that like permeate everything, that move through the water and through the stone. We realize that the color is not like following the laws of physics in any way, like it's moving through what it's not supposed to be able to. And we see that whatever it touches, the concrete or the water, it changes it briefly, like the water becomes grass-like, or we see the concrete becoming more like earth as it flickers and it fades. And then we go deep under the water, and that's where you see that the city continues to extend, and there are these huge lights that follow through. We can see like there's like one Corp, sort of like I think it's the same drone that we saw Ismaria kick at and Connie like pull apart, right? So we see a similar drone moving through the water, and it's followed by a swarm of other drones as it goes deep into what remains of the city under the water. And so as we pull in closer, Mary, what do we see of you in the lab?
Actually, this is the point where I want to ask everyone a question, which is what painful memory stalks me.
Oh, nice.
Because I think this is the perfect time when Mary's not quite awake yet.
Ooh. Does anyone have an idea? I like how easy everybody coming up with.
I've got one, but I kind of want to go last.
Ooh.
Wait, there are multiple. Oh, okay.
If you want to add on to it, do you want to do it, and then we can add on and like kind of Frankenstein a horrible memory? That sounds fun.
I like that. That's very. Agatha's like, what have I?
What have you unleashed?
Engineer my torment for me. Done.
Well, I was thinking that what stalking you in these halls could be maybe yourself, but the day you died. Like you're like a version of you that's all like blasted and burned, like on one side, that carries everything that you were, as well as all the baggage that everyone else is like projecting onto this figment of who you used to be, was the idea I had.
Yeah, I like how Agatha talked about horror not being like her thing, but I very much see this as like a Japanese horror flick, right? Like this.
Oh yeah,
this bird figures moving through the corridors of the lab, right? And we can see like parts of it are flooded, and like, but the flood doesn't come all the way through. There's something invisible that's pushing back the water, right? But you can, it's just this clear, sudden like line that pushes the water back, right? And we see this figure moving towards what we assume is Mary. But John, did you want to add to that memory, that painful memory that stalks Mary?
I did, but now I'm trying to think of the way to do it, and I've blanked. So, because I think the thing that might be interesting is if, you know, one of the memories that Mary got is the reason why Eli was targeting Mary to begin with.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a part of it, but I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck Eli's plan is for me personally. So like I'm trying to figure out how to tie that in, but I can't quite think of one off the top of my head just yet.
Yeah, and it can be, so what you see is it's like I think you first hear the sound like very labored breathing, and then it's the sound of like someone dragging their footsteps through the watery landscape, and when the camera pans down onto the water, you see the reflection of this like half burnt face, and a hand, like the Mary's hand, reaches out and actually like pushes open a door, and I feel like whatever is on the other side of the door is whatever she saw or whatever secret that she uncovered. And I guess we can figure out what that is later, but it becomes just this like crushing weight, and I think what it looks like is like spasming images, but it's just too many things, too many memories that she has to carry with her, and all of that, it like crushes her, and then Mary falls onto the ground and kind of like curls up, still like, you know, looking like basically a corpse. And then I think when she opens her eyes again, within the lab, actually, she is in that form, and she is not able to, like, at this moment, take on the form of anything else like she usually does, like what people feel nostalgia for, because right now she's crushed under her own painful memories.
And I think there's a moment where we see these different memories as ghosts all around you, like wearing different faces, like just coming in and peering over the edge of the table, and we see there's this bright light that's focusing on you, and past the light there's a very calm voice that says, "Mary, I'm so glad that you could join us. I promise you the pain will pass soon." And there's a gentle face that there's a gentle hand that caresses your face, but you can just feel just this horrible sensation. Like, even though they're talking to you so calmly and so kindly, you can feel the anger just radiating off of them, the disgust, right? They're barely concealing it. And they say, "You are so beautiful, made so perfectly. I'm sure you can help a lot of people, Mary. You're that kind of person, aren't you?"
I think, yeah, Mary can definitely, she senses the disgust, but at this moment, I think she kind of puts a hand on the hand that's on her cheek, and she says, "Yes, I can. What do I need to do?"
"I just need you to close your eyes, dear. You're holding on to so much grief, so much pain. I'm here to help you so that you can help others. We just need you to make space. We just need you to let go. Do you understand, dear?"
I do. And Mary will close her eyes. I think even at this point, she's kind of flickering a little. The edges of her are fading, because I think she's under a lot of pain, like physical and mental pain.
Yeah, go ahead and take another token for your magic flickering and fading in this moment. And I also have, I think before we move on to the next scene, I'd like everyone to take a token for one of the Corp lures, which is someone drawing the attention of the Corp. I think from everyone's show of power, we see the Corp is picked up in everyone. But take a token in exchange.
Yeah, yay!
Yeah, and Mary will close her eyes and breathe out, and I think then maybe that's when the figures that have been hovering around her they start to blur as well.
Yeah, and I think all of them, they're looking at you, and right as your eyes close, you see them like look away, like they all turn their back on you as they start to flicker and fade. And so as you close your eyes, I think there's a part of you that sees Grist like running through the building looking for you. But then we cut to the real Grist. So Grist, you are currently like in full on spire building Nexus portal at the lab form. You can feel the water like reaching out to you. You can feel the radiation. You can feel the reality of this place is rewriting itself over and over again. Like it's trying to figure out what it is. What do you do? What happens?
Can I sense Mary?
I think as you reach out, ooh, you do have your hunter prey.
I do.
Yeah. I'll say before you decide to activate it, as you reach out with your senses to search for Mary, the confusing thing is it's not that you can't find Mary, it's that there are too many of her. You can sense that there are 12 distinct, like
12.
mm-hmm.
Okay. 12. What is the significance of that number? Okay. Yeah. So if I use my elemental magic, if I hunt my prey, if I try to hunt the real Mary, with a real Mary, please stand up. I'm gonna name my prey, which is Mary, my younger sibling. Until I switch targets or have them in your grasp, you will always know where they are and what they fear. The GM will tell you how you become fearful in turn. For as long as the protocols remain stable and your heart is strong, you have the power to terrify, mesmerize, and distract your prey.
Yeah, so my question is, do you want to activate this as a strong move, meaning the consequence, like what you're afraid of, won't be that big a deal, or do you want to activate this as a weak move so that
Let's
it
do
happens
it as
as
a
consequence?
Yeah, let's do it as a weak move. 'Cause it's more fun that way, I think.
Yeah, 100%. So go ahead and take the token. I think. Tell me what it looks like first, as this protocol like activates and you start to, because like what you're seeing from your end is you can see the lab, you can see the ancient city underneath the water. You can see how this lab was like hastily like built on top of the city, like what remains of it under the water. And then you can see all those like this is like a Batman video game moment, right? Where you can see like the different Marys like in your vision. And they're all moving around really weirdly. But what does it look like when your protocols turn on and you can pick out the real one?
I like that. Are all the fake Marys, let's say, are they like inside me? Because I'm like building mode right now. Like how is the physical relationship between the grist building and the lab and the forest?
Good question. I kind of like the idea that like we keep seeing the building like the grist building move, like it builds itself towards the lab and it's connecting to it. And what remains of you is like unbuilding itself to like it's moving like a concrete building slug. Does that make sense as it moves across the ocean? Yeah.
Yeah, that does. I think what happens is like this flesh, concrete, wood, bone structure begins to sort of like slough its way across the forest, sort of like bending between space and time, like going through the codes that undergird all of reality here in this false earth. And I like web over to where the lab is. And what it looks like as I'm hunting is instead of tendrils, it's corridors reaching out like feelers. Like bridges like go over like the dilapidated moss covered ruin of this old city that the lab has sort of built itself over. And I'm like trying to like take over. Like I'm trying to synthesize myself with the lab. And as the corridors go through and like ceilings go over spaces that used to be open, right? And like metal struts like crack open concrete that used to be closed. I think as all the fake Marys are running around, could we maybe like zoom in on one as like suddenly like a concrete and metal corridor like goes around her and like one by one, like lights begin to come down. You like red, like it's stalking this fake Mary, like going all the way down. And when the final light comes on over her head, and Grist realizes this is a fake Mary, like poof, like a pillar of light, like red light comes down and pierces her like through the head, to like crumple the illusion.
Absolutely. And you realize, like, as you're doing this, like these fake Marys, you get glimpses of their memories before they're crushed. And you see what the audience has seen, what Mary has seen, a kind face touching, a kind face, but that sense of disgust and anger touching the face, these strange words being said. And then, but that same face turning and saying, no, we picked up one of the remnants. This isn't the Santelmo we're after.
Do I recognize this voice and this face?
Yeah, I want to say you do. I think it's someone. Ooh, let's go ahead. The enslaved setting element has, you get a token if you say you're intimately connected to one of them, right?
Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, that who this person is. They are someone that you tried to turn into an aswang and it didn't take.
Okay, sounds good. What is their relationship to Mary? Or do I not know?
I think you know that they used to be Mary's guardian. I think we cut back to the image of you as children, and there's someone off to the side who's always been watching the two of you. So someone you both knew.
I see, but they weren't my guardian.
Yeah, I think I want to say they were both your guardian, but like they were more worried about Mary. What do you think?
I like that. Yeah. Do you think maybe I tried to turn them into an aswang because I was very lonely and I was like, you're basically like kind of my mom, dad situation going on here? And whoever this was like, hell no. So there's that like bitterness, I think, in our relationship to each other. Do I have a name for this person?
Yeah, I will pull one up for you. Unless someone has an idea for a name. Really,
names are hard. Like,
yeah,
they are.
That's why I just love pulling up a generator. I'm gonna say that their name is. I have stuff here. Yeah, let's go with Kyo.
Pyo or Kyo?
Kyo, like Kyo. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Dr. Kyo. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as like that light poof, like pierces through this false Mary, a voice, almost like it's going through the intercoms of this like hallway that's like forming itself, which is Grist's voice, just goes, Doc, it's been a while, hasn't it? What have you done with her?
And so as you connect like across the memories, zooming in, you realize that she has figured out a way to make sure that you can't exactly pinpoint where she is.
That's totally fine.
Yeah, for now, right? But you do notice like there's something really strange about her. Like you realize like you can see the lines of her face and you realize it's a faceplate and it starts to shift and move and open up very, very slowly. And that same sinister voice comes through and says, oh, my dear, I'm doing for Mary what you couldn't do for her. I'm helping her. I'm healing her. I'm helping her let go of that horrible, disgusting magic that you forced her to become when you killed her.
Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. And all the lights just explode in all hallways across all of Grist. And Grist's like pained yell. I think all three of you, Yasmiria, Kristen, and Xander can hear the shout. And maybe like Grist's voice. Because if you're in proximity to this building, I assume you can hear it. And Grist's voice actually calls out your names. Xander, Kristen, Gizmeria, the three of you, you have to, please, you have to find her. You have to rescue her.
Perfect. And I'm going to say, like, just so that it's clear, like that's what the fear that from Hunt Your Prey, is that Dr. Kyo has figured out a way to forcibly remove the elemental magic from Mary, but you don't know if she's going to survive the process because elementals and their magic are like intertwined, right? So you get the feeling that Dr. Kyo is willing to kill her just to save her.
The three of you, please, you have to stop this magical fucking lobotomy.
Okay, and then I feel like we should cut to Kristen and Xander. You find each other in these corridors of Grist as you move through the Nexus. And Xander, you hear a voice in your head as your memories start to flood back. And there's just it sounds like you, but not you. And the voice says, I can be patient, just a little more for this game. But then you fully come back into your body.
Also,
there's some
I think-
Jujutsu Kaisen fuckery going on in here. Okay. Go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead. I heard you started to say something. Go for it.
Yeah, well, actually, I was just gonna say, Connie, you also get another token because you hit the Tikbalang Lear.
Oh, that's right. Good job.
Oh, I did?
What
Ooh.
you
Yeah.
Thank you for
Perfect.
keeping an eye on that. I've got 4 now. Yay.
I got you. You're so powerful.
I know, right? I'm about to unleash all of these.
Oh lordy. Oh boy. So I think the problem, or not the problem, but the complication right now is I don't think Xander knows why he's in this building at the moment. Like he's come back, he is now sort of shuntered back into it. He has no idea why he's here. So I think he goes looking to feel something that is familiar. And I think he finds it in a place that Eli wouldn't expect to find, but Xander would, which is I think he senses a little god. Because through the connection of Grist to the lab, Void is there. So I think that's what I think that's where he starts to go. Is heading towards Void. At least until something redirects him, because he doesn't know where the hell he's going right now. So like he's just kind of wandering in that direction. Runs into Kristen.
Yeah, and Kristen, what do we see of you as you're moving through the corridors of the strange building?
Kristen is sort of following Chris's voice, kind of in a daze, wandering through the corridors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the building is fully connected to the lab by this point. And I think, Maria, were you above the water, or do you think like you were in the lab itself when we cut to you?
Probably in the lab. Kind of like I was imagining like when they stepped out of the spirit realm, they were like walking on top of the water, waiting for anyone to show up, watching the building show up. It's kind of like a bit of a ways away, and then Void then showed up, and I think maybe like they walked together close into the lab. So they're there, being quite chummy. I think probably. Not sure. This is all by the seat of my pants. I would say
Void likes you.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they like whoever this duende was. I do have a name for the duende.
Nice.
Their name is Isabella. I think right now what we see is like, Isabella here kind of like looks very poised, looks, very like collected, as if like big, horrible, fleshy building. That's already happened, darling. Can't pull the same trick twice.
I like how 2 of our characters have completely different personalities underneath. Very good stuff. And I think Void looks towards the side of the building and says, they're almost here. They've almost fully connected. But what do I do with the secrets? I've collected them like you asked, but they're dangerous. They tend to eat things. like me, and they smile widely.
You feed them to something that can eat itself. How's the Bakunawa doing?
Oh, very hungry. I could go start that now. I can go to the Bakanawa with our secrets.
I'm sure you've collected enough that they'll gorge and gorge for a while. That should wake it up. I'll deal with my friends. You get on with it.
And Void like cocks ahead of you. Friends. All right.
Yeah, I think like there's like a moment where Isabella like irritably like scratches a bit of her chin and like there's a flicker of a holographic screen. Because like I imagine like if Xander's like looking for Void, they'll probably have run into Isabella? I'm not sure.
Isabella, but with a Y.
Valid. Absolutely. And I think Void nods and says, you'll hear, you'll feel when I'm done. Everyone will feel it. I'll be back soon. But remember, we have to protect Xander no matter what. That was part of the deal.
Oh, don't worry. Xander will be... He'll be fine. You just do what you need to do. Don't let yourself get eaten now. That thing's rather hungry from what I remember.
Oh, don't worry. Hunger can't consume hunger. And they'll lean over and they'll kiss you on the cheek before they move. And you see them like as they walk towards the wall like splits open and we see these pipes and bars that move and then slowly swallow up Void, disappearing, and the wall becomes smooth behind them.
Weird. I think like just to punctuate this, like Isabella will like kind of like almost like a magician's trick would kind of like flick and kind of like a cigarette lighter shows up in their hand. Because like the way when this work, they're machine. At least in Balikbayan, they're like machine crafters. They create stuff, and I think what this just does is like she flicks the cigarette lighter open. Actually, it's a cigar. I think a cigarette holder, and she kind of like just takes one out with her mouth, and when it pops out, it gets lit somehow by the box. So like when it just pops out, it's already lit. The cigarette, and they just wait.
Perfect. And I think this is a good point to take our first break before we come back and see how Chris comes back into a smaller.
Oh, can I rewind?
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah, please.
Something. I think Chris senses the strange nature of the lab and like knows where to go, how to navigate through the corridors of the Grist building. So they're
Ooh.
following this strange scent of the lab to it.
Perfect. Yeah, I really like that a lot. And so I think maybe the last shot we see is Kristen walking through with Xander, like their hair flowing behind them as the door opens up. Like, and we know that they're about to like come across Ismeria, but yeah, or is Isabella as Ismeria? We'll see. Okay, so we'll take our break, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. Is that right, Agatha?
Yeah.
Cool.
Did you want to check in now or later?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for reminding me. So everybody, we wanted to show you an example of what we do when we go on break. So this is a good time for, as players, we're going to check in, see where we're where we are in the session, if there's something we would like for our characters. It's sort of like an overhead conversation of what's going on, right? Just to make sure everyone is happy about where things are headed. So yeah, I'd love to ask everyone. Let's go in the same reverse character keeper order. Agatha, how do you feel about what's going on with Mary, and what would you like to hit for the remainder of the session?
Oh, I'm really excited about this turn of events. I feel like everyone has had their sad things, and finally I get my turn as well. I think it will be interesting to see for Mary, obviously, when she or whoever speaks to her first. That'll be interesting. I think of the PCs that I would love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool, very cool. And Connie, how about for Grist?
Oh boy. I'm having fun. I'm just vibing as a building. I'm looking forward to having the five of us together again to confront this doctor. Dr. Kyo and whoever they are working for. I surmise there's a grander villain behind this. I'm excited for an epic boss fight. It's kind of what I want. Whatever that looks like.
Yeah, epic boss fight. Got it. Very awesome. I also have pictures of Dr. Kyon Boyd in the NPC tab because
Ooh, I am
Yeah.
looking.
but yeah, just because like it helps me visually as a GM. But yeah, and then so how about for Xander? We things have again.
Hold on,
you
I'm
had a
distracted
vacation
by
last
Dr.
session.
Kyoan Void. One moment, please. You can't just say there's an NPC in here and not expect me to go look. That's very good art. Goddamn. Okay.
Pinterest is great.
So, I think narratively right now, like I just have no idea what's happening in a good way. Like so much stuff came to light in the last hour and a half that I'm like my brain is like hold on, wait, what's happening? Find it, figure it out, what's going on. So I'm really enjoying kind of where this is going. I am like I kind of do want to see it all come together. Like I don't know where it's going yet, and like for those of you watching at home, I trust Jamie to get it all together because like we've played enough that I trust them to do that. I'm trying to keep myself from going full like rewatching the Netflix series 13 times in a row to try and figure out where the parts are that you missed that led to this point. That's what I'm trying to not do right now because I can feel myself going into like, okay, but all these parts are going, where are they going? Where are they going? And it's like focusing on sitting back and just letting the ride take me at this point. But yeah, I do want to see everyone kind of get together and see what is going on. I'm really curious to see what happens if like Xander / Eli and Ismaria / Isabella come face to face, because that's a weird dynamic, right? Because it's just an interesting thing to have two characters who want to like. It's very fascinating to me to see two player characters who are both like in one side of the coin is absolutely on board for every party, and one side to the other side is clearly just like irredeemably bad. Like. Yeah, at least for as far as Eli. I don't know like so much about Isabel's situation. But it's kind of fun to see two like antagonistic characters being made out of the flip sides of PCs. Because I'm an angst gremlin. It's what I love. So I'm curious to see what happens.
That actually reminds me. I think I would love to have another conversation. Well, it doesn't have to be with Mary, but to Xander and someone else like talk to Xander and Eli about like, hey, but by the way, what's going on? Like that kind of conversation I would love to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Forcing Xander to face like what's going on. Yeah. Very cool. All right, and then
I'm meandering that way. Don't worry, I got you. We're heading to Void with a plan.
Perfect. And then Ting, how about for Kristen?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what's already been said. Just enjoying the ride and seeing everything come together. boss fight, whatever that will look like.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
then Leandro, how about for Ismaria / Isabella?
Yeah, I did put a picture of Isabella in the NPC tab as well. Also, in terms of John's question on how good or bad Isabella is, she did help build enslavement protocols. And I did want to check in because I was a bit worried that like I was biting a bit of Sanders' story of, oh, I'm also I have a former self who's kind of evil.
It's fine. I think the fact that there's two of them makes it an interesting dynamic because now we can see which direction they're going, right? Because like,
yeah. So I guess like I'm also kind of for the right. Like I'm not exactly sure where the direction is. I think it'll end up okay. We'll get there. It's just gonna be a sad and painful road. But yeah, I think I'm very keen for I think this is coming up. This conversation between Sander Eli and Maria Bella, and all the strange reality stuff that's happening. I think it wouldn't be that hard to like get everyone together. I mean, everyone can technically be inside of Grist, and
There's enough space in the Nexus.
yeah. I think it's all coming together. I'm curious where Mary is. I have a vague idea of what Isabella's thing is. We'll see it out in the talk with Xander Eli. But I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's going to come together really well.
Awesome. Yeah, and then when we come back, I just want to note that Grist, your hunter prey mode is still active the whole time you have it on. So just so you know. All right, so we'll go ahead and take our 10-minute break, everybody. Hydrate, walk around, stretch, and we'll see you all in 10 minutes. Hi, okay, and we're back. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm so excited to move towards this conclusion. I have a feeling there's going to be, I know we went through a lot of tragedy. I don't know, there may be more. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so when we cut back, that door from Grist's building like has just smashed right the wall against this part of the lab, and it starts to open. We see Isabella / Ismaria over there on the other side as the door opens, and on the other end is Xander and Kristen. Do we want to say both of you together in this moment? Okay, and then as that's happening, just because I want to bring the gang together as quickly as possible, Grist, how do we see you like fold back into being a person if that's what happens, right?
Yeah, since my hunt your prey protocol is still active, I think I have the power to terrify, mesmerize, and distract my prey. As long as the protocols remain stable and my heart is strong. So I think this is a mesmerize move. I'm trying to locate the real Mary, and the corridors sort of like draw back like away from all the fake Marys, you know, like all the ones that I've determined are illusions or blips on this algorithm, and it's like watching a flower bloom in reverse, like someone hit the reverse button on a tape, and it's all these like windows fold in like origami, and Marrow, you know, spins backward, and like it's you're re-spooling a thread that's been loosened, and all of this like organic and techno matter just wraps itself back up and folds back into Grist's back. And I think Grist at this point is naked on the ground, on the floor of wherever is convenient for her to be in the lab, sort of crouched there. I think she's kind of wet, like very much like that scene from Howl's Moving Castle when Hal was really depressed because he's not pretty anymore. She's like covered in this like viscous, like red blood, like viscera, like a birth, like gore just like hanging off of her body. And then like her spine is like split open as the last spire like sucks its way back in with like a fleshy slurping sound, and then like stitches like fold seam her back up, and she's just sort of there like, heaving. And it's disgusting, yeah, but it's also like mesmerizing in the same way that seeing like a wild animal give birth is.
Absolutely. I love
Okay.
it so much. So, Gris, do you want to like be near Isabella and the rest where that happens, or do you want to be placed somewhere else, like maybe closer to Mary, but possibly in some kind of danger? Like it depends if you want to be with
the people are somewhere interesting. Wherever is best for you, Jamie.
Yeah, because like I know we can have you join the group really quickly, but I think it would be cool if as that happens, as you come together, that's when you hear a voice that you're vaguely familiar with say, so you're here. Does that mean Mary is close? And when your eyes like open with a sound, right, with the squelching of all of that extra liquid that's across your face, you can clearly see you halt, the private detective that has been working with Mary, who's been tracking the serial killers. They lean down to pick you up and they take off. They're like this super hot budge detective, right? So,
hell yeah.
They like take off their coat and they put it on top of you, you know, like and they're actually like roughly your size, right? So the coat.
Oh wow, so they're muscular. Okay.
Yeah, and they're really tall and everything. And so not as tall as Rose, but you know, and then they throw the coat over you and they say, I was trying to get a message out to you, and I guess I'm never gonna get used to this elemental magic.
Siu's a human, right? Not like a god or okay.
Definitely a human that tends to like be completely out of their element. This is not the first time you've caught them like, like
sure,
doing something like this.
Gris coughs, looks up at Siu with like Siu's like coat around her shoulders, and her sunglasses are gone, so her right eye, like the bottom of the inverted cross, bleeds onto her cheek and is like dripping down, like she's crying blood. She looks up at Siu. She just goes, "Of course you'd be here. You're always where things happen. Siu, you have to get out of here. It's not safe for someone like you."
And then Siu smiles and says, "Well, I couldn't let Mary down." And they smile. I made her a promise.
Everyone seems to be interested in my sister, but no one knows what's actually good for her. And Gris starts to struggle to a stand and blearily looks around. Where am I?
Yeah, and actually, I want to say before that, like when you say interested in your sister, Siu goes, "What? No, I'm not. What gave you that? No, there's nothing going." I mean, it's not. Anyway.
I didn't misinterpret it like that, and besides, she's out of your league.
But anyway, as I was saying, I managed to, and then so you see, like you're in one of those like narrow corridors. There's like a series of fluorescent lights. You can see like parts of the water once again are trying to like get in, but there's that invisible force that's keeping it back. Just to show you how weird it is, Siu walks over and places a hand into the water. Like their hand just easily moves into the water and it comes back out and it's wet and everything. But they look at you and they shrug and they say, "I do have blueprints. I did manage to get that much." And like they, from their vest, they're like one of those like weirdly old-fashioned types. You don't even see any. They still have like the minimum require augments to be able to like interact with most things, but there are no clear visible augments. They're very much an old-fashioned type. They even have like a holster with an old-fashioned 6-shooter gun. Like really,
Chris can respect that. Yeah, retro sees retro. Yeah.
And then so like they have this like watch like thing, right? And they open it up and it shows a hologram. Like it's not one of those weird things that comes out of the eyes to show you what they're seeing. And they show you like complete blueprints level by level of the lab. You can see like parts are not complete, right? Like you can see Siu has put in their notes of like parts of the lab and the building that have eroded. You can see that the city that it's connected to underneath is still a mystery. They only really have the bits and pieces of the lab. And they say, "I've been tracking Dr. Kyo, and there's someone who's working with them that's been going after people. I don't know. It's all very strange. It's the Corp is up to something, and I'm going to find out what it is. I can't help but feel like they've been behind these killings somehow.
Of course, it's the fucking Corp. They're always behind shit. And Gris sort of like raises a shaking hand to the water as well and touches it and draws it back, hesitating. And she's gonna mutter, "This magic isn't going to hold. They're doing their experiments on borrowed fucking time." And I'm using a strong move to detail a flaw or vulnerability of the lab, which is at any moment now the magic's gonna give and the water will come in and flood it.
Perfect. And I'm going to say, as part of that strong move, you know how to like force it if you need to. Like, you can see the weak points in the lab.
Yes.
So you can make it happen at any point as part of
Love
that strong move. And then Siu looks at you, looks back at the water, and says, "All right, let's do what we can. I think I have an idea of where Dr. Kyo is." And as they pointed out on the map, you can feel like this is also where Mary is. Like, you can sense that it's coming together, so you can confirm it, that it's true. And Siu doesn't know about your connection to Dr. Kyo. And they start to explain, Dr. Kyo has been working with the Corp, and this lab was supposed to have been shut down years ago, but they've been performing experiments on the Serena and a few other elementals, obsessed with, I know that they were tasked to take the elemental magic and graft it onto specific Corp executives who were deemed worthy. But I think Dr. Kyo has gone off from that. She's just trying to destroy the magic, period. And I don't think the Corp knows that either.
Oh, Doc, how fucking far she's fallen. You don't take magic, it takes you. Lead the way.
And Siu nods and says, "So you still look a little weak, and they're offering their shoulder for you to lean on?"
I'm fine. What do you bench? Like 100?
I'll have you know, I can lift plenty of heavy-set girlfriends. And then they stalk off through the corridors.
And Gris go, "Way to rub the fact that you have girlfriends in my face, arrogant bastard." And she's gonna follow you down the corridor.
And then so we cut back to Ismaria. You see the door open up. You see Xander and Chris in there. And Xander, you have a sense of void. The little god is like moving further away from you. What does the three of you do?
I start clapping. Start clapping at Xander. Just big sarcastic claps. And I think like Isabella has this just like, I mean, she's clapping, but they've got like no mirth in their face. And they kind of say as a greeting, "All hail our prophet, our little advocate for efficiency. This is all your fault. This, I told you, Eli. And yes, I know you can hear me there, Eli. I told you to trust you, to pick better enforcers, to pick someone who can get the job done. Instead, you picked someone with attachments. Look where the hell we are now. Now we've got an Aswang rampaging around our facilities, and your plan is in tatters, and I've had to pick up your mess. And I think like Isabella kind of like gives you like a look as if like try to see like if Eli's like hearing any of that, and it's like, oh, don't tell me you're hiding under your little shield, your little like facade or whatever. The thing with facades is that like they're paper, they crumble with a flick. So why don't you stop hiding, Eli? Just admit you fucked up.
And
I do want to check in if that's all okay, John.
You're good. So Xander, Eli, question mark. I think says that's why I'm here to fix the mistake. Void. And it sort of just he says it to the air vaguely, because I think Void off at one point, right? Yeah, like so Xander Eli just kind of says it to the room at large. Void. I know you can hear me. You're hungry.
And I think like as that happens, the wall ripples for a moment, and there's that sound of the static, and like the water that's close by, like you can see the edges of it, like it starts to pull up around your ankles a little bit, like the water starts to rise just a tiny bit, and the wall ripples, and there's a sigh from the concrete as it slowly splits open without a sound, and you can see the radiation coming off of it as it's being rewritten, and we see Void's face come through. So there are these moving black snake-like tentacles around the face, just one clear part of the face clear with a pinkish glowing eye. And Void looks at you, but then looks towards Isabella and says, "It's done, what you asked. It will wake soon when it's done feeding," and looks back at Xander Eli, waiting for a response.
Good, then we're almost done. Sorry, I forgot the name. For a moment there, the Bacchanal is going to wake up, and it's going to make up for your mess. Typical. You preach efficiency, yet can't even fucking practice it.
And Void comes up to you. Xander places their arms around you. Are you there? I quite like the facade, no matter what Isabella says. I think it's cute.
Xander just says, I do too. But we have another meal to feed it. So, time to get to work. And they hold their hand out to Void, like, come on in.
And Void takes the hand and looks at Chris and, how about the Dewada? Are you going to join us?
No. Kristen looks at the Isabella and says to both of them, Xander / Eli and Isabella / Ismira. We don't have time for this. Ismira, you gotta snap out of it.
What did I just say about facades? You were the only one who knew who I was. Kristen, you could have said something while we were at the Haven to anyone. And now you're telling us that we don't have time. You've had all the time in the world. So what are you going to do now? I want to ask a weak move question, if it's okay. As kind of like, almost like as if Isabella's like really asserting themselves through, and maybe you can barely see, like maybe there's some flickering hollow screens. Yeah, how does my magic flicker and fade?
Yeah, I want to say like we see the water as it starts to rise and the nearby sections of it. The different faces that you've had, all the different animals, they start to flicker and show up in the water, like they're leaching out of you. Like as your Isabella personality becomes stronger, the duende becomes stronger, that it's harder to hold on to the Tikbalang's abilities.
Yeah, so I think that becomes very like clear to everyone. And I think like Isabella is like standing kind of like as kind of like the face kind of sort of around her, almost as if like sorry, I got a question in the chat. I'm about to answer it with what I'm doing here. And because I was about to go into a villain monologue, but I realized that's not really that interesting. I think actually, you know what? Yeah, I think I'll just kind of describe. Isabella starts monologuing.
Okay, cool. Cool.
And I think like she says, people here talking about having no time and trying to be efficient, and then they start relying on inefficient things, on people with attachments who's just going to blow up in their faces. Eli, I tried to tell them you're not going too far enough, and I had to clean up your mess. I had to go and find out and try to salvage something for your mess. You have to thank whatever heaven and earth put us here that little Mary became a Sant Elmo, and so we could use that. Of course, I had to go find them, and I had to go find a way to Sulad, and then ended up like this. And I'm like, do you have any idea what it's like to be ripped apart into 100 different things, for different little chickens and cows and little monkeys nibble at your sense of self? It's humiliating. It's utterly humiliating. And I think like as she's kind of like saying this, as she's kind of like metaphorically spitting on the face of Ismeria, I'm gonna spend a token to embody the wisdom and chaos of the spirit realm. As the different images, the different animals in spirit are kind of like separating away from this horrible duende. I think both Xander, Eli, and Kristen, you can see that like those spirits have separated away, and Isabella's like by herself. She's an open target. And almost like you can see like there's a different holocaust, the different animals are kind of like I think you can hear Ismeria's voice kind of like go what was she gonna say? What would they say? I think I'm not sure what she says. Something like, I think she says Xander. She says Xander, Kristen, you have to take her out. She's core and she hurts and she wants to hurt you all. You have to do it. She's there. She's talking. All she does is talk. It's and I think she's like completely separate. I think you get the sense like all the spirits have like separated away, and now Isabella is like a sitting duck.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen says under their breath, "Well, enough talk," and want to spend a token to use energy drain.
Cool.
Nice.
That's exactly what I was hoping you'd do. Awesome. Cool.
Perfect. Also awesome. All right, so go ahead and read out energy drain, and you're doing this as a strong move. Okay.
The spirit elements exist in its all excess. Make it your own. Place your target in your vulnerable position. The GM will tell you how you become vulnerable. In turn, drain your target's energy. Choose one. They're rendered powerless for now, or you access important information, or they are destroyed, resulting in collateral damage.
I will say, as a strong move, if you want to be able to destroy, like, and this we'll have to check in with Leandro, but destroy Isabella, right? How do you feel about that, Leandro? Or do you want, like, just to force her to be dormant for now?
Oh no, yeah, destroy her. She's terrible. I'm perfectly. Like, I have enough tokens to like put Ismeria in a good spot, so it's fine. Like, Isabella kind of really sucks. Invent and split it. You help build and invent. I think I kind of put in my mind like, they help create enslavement protocols. Yeah, to do what you want.
Yeah. So I'll say, like, because of what Leandro did for the character, like opening up Isabella to the vulnerability part, you don't have to place them in a vulnerable position. But in order to tell you how you become vulnerable in turn, since you spent a token, it won't be too much. I think it'll just be. I think we see flashes of memories of you and Ismeria spending time together in the Haven, and there's a question of, like, was Isabella there the whole time, like watching from behind, like just that sliver of a thought before it fades. But yeah, so what does it look like when you energy drain this consciousness, this duende?
Kristen takes off one of their gloves, and the watery human arm becomes more amorphous, and they're kind of like conducting a symphony, and the water around Isabella that had the images of all the shapes of Ismeria start floating and start pelting Isabella and drive her out.
Awesome. And I think we clearly see Isabella, like with the white short hair, the cruel eyes, like starting to reveal themselves, surrounded by this water. And Isabella looks at you, Chryson, and says, "Even if you destroy me, you'll never be able to destroy the Corp." What do you do? I guess the question is, are you going to completely erase Isabella, or do you want to take her into yourself, or what do you think is going to happen next?
Completely take her out.
Jeez.
Okay. So as the water starts to just completely take over her form, we see that Isabella in general was barely holding on, and it took all of Ismeria's power and energy just to keep Isabella here. And as that is destroyed, we see Ismeria becoming more powerful, more cohesive. There's a moment in the water where we see like a few episodes ago when we saw that anthropomorphic horse running through the graffiti. Now it's running through the water, and it returns to Ismeria, and all the forms return back to them. And Ismeria, there's a moment, just a moment, where you find yourself in the spirit realm, surrounded by all this energy. And there's a voice that comes through, many voices, that says, even if you were made of remnants and pain, what you were really made of was hope. We are never going to give up. We're going to save this world no matter what, and we're going to save you.
I think Ismeria kind of like says, actually no, I think they let just to get proper get a proper YA description in. They let out a breath they didn't know they were holding.
Oh my god.
And like, I think like hearing that, like, you know, don't give up on them, almost kind of like, almost like, you know, it almost kind of takes them out. And I think they like start to like say something, but I think like they kind of like fade away from the spirit realm and will end up back in the lab. Let's see. I almost kind of want to not. Well, I don't know. I think unless Kristen or Xander or Eli, if you want to talk to this Mary, I think they might not show up there where you are. Might show up somewhere else.
Feel free to yeet.
I think I was gonna have them show up to where Mary is.
Very cool.
I'll spend another token for that to make what you hope for more real. Yeah, and I think nice. To Xander / Eli, unless Eli's we'll see if Eli's still there. You said you were gonna feed them to this little god before you, and we'll get to that, I guess. I think Kristen and Xander, you'll see like the different animals that kind of like make up Ismeria. They almost kind of like threaten to like break apart again, but then they come back, and then we'll see like the big horse, kind of like big, beautiful Winnie that echoes throughout the lab.
Good.
Yeah,
and I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say, and then the horse kind of like canters away, mighty gallop
towards where Mary is. And I think to connect it to what you hope for, I think we see on the other side, like you burst through the doors, and there's this young scientist like in front of this table, like all these screens in front of them, all this equipment, and they whirl around, and they look so much like Isabella, white hair, but it's long, but their eyes are far kinder, and they look younger. And they look at you shocked, and you see them like slam down onto a table. Dr. Kyo, there's a tikbalang here. What are your orders? What do you do? Oh, you know what? I'm going to cut away so that we'll cut to Mary, who's just on the other side of the door, just so you can think about that for a second. So Mary, we cut back to you, and your eyes are closed. All that you've been holding on to, these figures, they turn their backs to you, and you see them walking away. And Dr. Kyo says, I'll take care of you. Don't worry. I know that they hurt you. And there may be some pain, but it'll be just for a little while, and then you can help so many people. Wouldn't that be lovely?
When Dr. Kyo says help so many people, Mary kind of like turns again, and like I don't know if I don't think her eyes are open, because I think she can see the other figures even with her eyes closed. So
Ooh,
she
yeah,
just
yeah,
turns in the direction of where all these other ghostly beings slash memories are, and I feel like there's something about them that looks like they are either in pain or want to inflict pain, because that is the thing that Mary can't let go of. I'm thinking about like what would drive her to like to not give up her powers in this moment when it's so tempting, and I feel like it
Yeah.
would have to be what she hopes for, which is to lay to rest violent spirits that haunt the living. So if they look like who have been hurt and want to hurt others, she would.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think like as you start to put the pieces together, you see like uh you catch onto a fragment of a secret, because I know that's one of your neutral moves from Dr. Kyo. Like you can see inside their mind that they have a way where they're mapping, that's what the drones have been doing, all the elementals in the city. And you see for a moment that when she does what she wants to remove the magic and kill the elemental, that's what becomes a violent hologhost. And you realize you're surrounded by all of these failed experiments, these ghostly elementals whose magic was ripped away from them. And you can feel the violence and the anger within them. And Dr. Kyo turns and says, "Don't worry, my dears, soon."
And I open my eyes and suddenly, and instead of my usual, I think I have like brown eyes. It's there's like blue flames that erupt out, and then that kind of like licks over my body, and that's my elemental form revealing itself, and it kind of like burns away like whatever the physicality that I was taking on by being weighed down by the memories, like that the body that's kind of like burned and stuff. But at this moment, it's just there's nothing here except for the flame, because.
Do you want this to be a time to take on the lab move, gain strange and terrible abilities for a time?
Sure, I could do that. I was also going to spend a token to do Spirit Fire, but sure, I can gain a terrible ability.
Sure. So go ahead and earn the token. I'm going to say like everything you realize that Dr. Kyo had you hooked up to stuff. And so as you start to take on your full San Telmo form, as the flames start to fire up, I think like different things in the lab just start to spontaneously combust in this blue-white fire, including some of the spirits. You can see like they're being cleansed by the blue-white flame. So what strange and terrifying ability do you get?
Yeah, it must be something about the waters in this lab that is feeding what is in Mary. And so I think her form kind of like stretches out, so it becomes like basically it looks like Slender Man, except if it's like blue fire. And she kind of like slopes, and her arms grow really long as well, and then she just starts like walking slowly, and everywhere she steps, I still want to use Spirit Fire, so I'm going to spend my token to do that. And I think, but I'm going to incorporate the what happens with a strange power, which is that what she's doing is everywhere she steps and everywhere that erupts into the blue flame, it's kind of like tearing it open like a portal between here and Sulad. And then whoever, like all of these spirits, when they are touched by the flames, then they can also, they're basically, when they're burned up, then they appear in Sulad. So, but it's also like kind of impacting everything. So random things will get burned up, and then like those internal structure, the structural integrity of this building is coming under fire, literally. So
I like that.
so
I
yeah,
like that.
but Mary is just like stretching tall and then like kind of bending over, because she's too tall for the ceilings, and then just like stepping now.
And as that happens, Dr. Kyo pulls back and we can see their faceplates start to move, and they pull back all of the faceplates and we see just dark water underneath and two glowing eyes. And then the faceplate comes back on as they say, "Perhaps I was too late to save you, Mary. There's too much of your sibling in you. Disgusting." And so they back away. And at that moment, that's when we hear, "Dr. Kyo, there's a tikbalang. Like, what are your orders?" And then Dr. Kyo says, "I'm starting the self-destruct sequence." And then as Dr. Kyo like tries to like press a button to do it, there's a voice that says, "No, you won't be doing that." And all of the speakers on the lab turn on at the same time, and that same staticky sound comes on. And we hear the song of the sirena come through the waves and the static and the ocean. And this mysterious voice says, "No, you're not going to destroy anything. The Bakanawa will take everything it can. And we'll start with you, Dr. Kyo." And then you can see like what Dr. Kyo was touching to like start the self-destruct sequence. The metal starts to move around her arm quickly, starting to like just consume her and encompass her. And you can see the face plates moving, the water trying to reach out. And she looks at you for a terrifying moment. "Mary, this is a chance to help Dr. Kyo, or are you going to let her be consumed?" And just to add to it, I'm going to say there are flashes of moments when Dr. Kyo was like pushing you on a swing and helping you as a child pick back up. What do you do?
I am going to reach out one of my noodly flame hands, and then again slide my hand down her face, and when I touch her, all this like the faceplate and stuff, they burst into blue flame and send her to Sulad.
And then as that happens, you can feel the fire burning away the disgust, the anger, and you feel what was underneath it the whole time, just the fear, just the absolute fear. And there's a moment where the face plate splits under the fire, and it looks like it's just water for a moment, but you realize she's crying, and she just closes her eyes and slowly fades into Sulad. And then I think at that moment, we're going to cut to Grist and our private detective who are rushing through. And Grist, you've been keeping an eye on Mary and feeling her the whole time. It's really bad. You can sense that Mary is just, oh, sorry, Matthew has a really bad cold. But you can sense that Mary is just sucking in all of this energy, and there's this other force that you didn't realize. You couldn't feel it because it was everywhere. It was all around you. But you realize that the entire lab is very much like you when you're in building form. It has a sentience about it. and you realize that it's resonating with Mary in this strange way and pushing part of its power into her. And the detective next to you does not pick up on any of this because they're just human, right? They're mortal. But there's this panicked look on their face, and they say, there's something wrong with Mary, isn't there?
Yeah, no fucking shit. Draw your gun.
And then she takes it out, and there's a moment where it pulls out and it trails this light. Because even though it's a 6-shooter, I'm going to make it a cyberpunk revolver. Okay, so this light trails, and then you hear this
Good for
whirring
me
sound.
specifically.
Yeah. And then she like rolls the barrel, right? And there's this sound, click, 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 right?
Oh, that's just extravagant.
I like my penis, they say. I mean, my gun. I meant to say my gun. That's what I said. I didn't say the other word.
Either way, it's clear you're compensating. And Grist is gonna pull ahead, running for Mary, and she is just gonna bellow. Like her voice is just gonna resound like down the halls, like, Mary, stop it! You have to fight it. Don't let it in.
And I think at that moment, the voice just echoes throughout the entire lab. And we cut back to Kristen, Ismaria, and Xander, and Void, who looked at Ismaria and is confused. Oop.
Oh no.
Is confused.
Oh no!
No, they've been taken by the ghosts.
Hello,
So true.
hello. We're back.
We made it back. Oh my gosh.
Oop.
My apologies. This internet. But yeah, I think we have just enough time to like have one last climactic scene. I think we may still go like a few minutes over, but I'm going to do my best to like pull us in. So I think what happens in the next moment is Grist, you can sense that the lab itself is starting to shift and change, and you recognize like it starts to transform in a way that's similar to yours. You can see like parts of the stone turning into fat, into muscle. Like it's very similar to your own transformation. You realize that that Dr. Kyo has been studying you, and this building has learned how to do it. And so what happens is like the lab starts to transform all around you, and instead of being inside the corridors, you realize that you're inside the serpentine like tunnels and the bellies of the Bakunawa as it starts to come to life. As we cut back to Ismaria and the rest, Void turns to Xander and they say, it's too late. It's too late. And they look back at Ismaria and the god Isabella. The plan, we can't stop it now. The Bakunawa, the Eclipse project is going to start. The whole city is going to be destroyed. What do you do? I think I want to go to like Grist, who wanted to like punch things maybe. So like, so Grist, you see like you're inside and you can sense it like it's moving. You can see Mary still on the other side, and the Bakunawa and Mary are like feeding off of each other's energies. Like if you realize the Bakunawa is using Mary as like a focal point. For all its energy.
Sure. I'm going to do my fun. I'm going to do a strong move here. I'm going to use my elemental magic with necessary cruelty here in a situation. So as I burst onto the scene, right, and I see this like weird like transfusion bullshit happening, I turn to, was it Risu? Was that the name of the detective? I turned, what was that?
Was it?
See you.
Risu,
No
see
problem.
you. Okay, see you. Cool. Thank you for correcting me. I turn to see you and I say, do one useful thing in your life and shoot. And then Grist is just gonna like flex her arms, and she's gonna like half transform into this like bone creature. Like spurs like come out of her skin, like this bony plating, like chitinous like covering like covers her pecs. Like her hair, which is this like untamed like black like mess, like hardens and almost turns into like a shell around her with like sharp like edges and spurs all around. And she's gonna charge forward and like a bone knife is gonna like come out of like her right arm, and she's gonna just sort of roar, "Sorry, Mary, this is gonna hurt like a bitch." And like physically like sever like whatever connection is happening.
Ooh, so Mary, what part does the bone have to go through to sever the connection?
I'm pretty sure it's my arm. It's my right arm. And yeah, it just like it's like cutting through butter, except the butter is blue flames. And I like I turn around and I just like my mouth just like opens and it's like a gaping kind of like, because I'm really stretched out tall now, and it's just this like gaping void, and then I make this sound that it kind of like pierces through the whole building because it hurts. And I'm pretty sure that you had to like cut off a piece of my soul in order to sever my connection.
Was the soul attached to the arm, or should I do something else?
You can do what you want. I just mean like, because I'm in my purest form right now, so my physical form is my soul.
Sounds good. Yeah, as I sever that arm into, does it like I think maybe there's like a cinematic moment as it like flies through the air, and Gris like goes right up on you, and is shouting at whatever like thing is also a part of you now, right? Like there's like this like corruption thing happening. So Gris just gets up on you, the blade retracts, but like her fist like hardens, and she just shouts, "Get out of my sister," and punctuates every word with a blow to your solar plexus. It's just like ramming you, like trying to like ram this thing out of you. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure this is like really, really painful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think as this is happening, like the Bacchanal is responding, like there are all these bars and spires that are coming through trying to like separate you two, and Siu just like shoots them off one by one, and then you hear the click as they run out of bullets, but they quickly like reload. But at the same time you feel the Bacchanal losing its grasp on Mary, and so those abilities start to fade a little bit, and Mary starts to like shrink back to her normal form, until I think this is another moment where like Gris catches Mary, probably.
Aww.
Is that
I'm like inspirited away, like turning from the dragon to the little boy.
Yeah, except that Chihiro is like beating the shit out of you while that's happening.
Good. Ghibli, but edgy.
And then Sia turns to you and says, "We have to get to the core." And then like it flares up again, the watch, and she points at a certain place, and she goes, "You destruction being, like just punch your way through it," they say.
Point me in a direction.
And then she turns and then she goes, "Okay, everyone, well, maybe you don't need to close your eyes, elementals, I don't know." And then she switches the gun into like a different mode, and you can see like this is truly an anime moment where it builds up this energy around it, and then it pinpoints towards the wall, and it creates this huge crater. And then but it destroys the gun, right? So see you like it just completely burns up in her hand, and she discards it. And she goes, "I'll make another one." And she rushes off into the hole. But that's basically where you have to head.
Yep. I'm going right through it with Mary in tow.
Perfect.
I need to know how you're carrying me.
Okay, I'm not gonna sack of potatoes it again. I've learned my lesson, so it's gonna be like full on one arm bridal style. The other arm is like out with like a bone covering to like shield from debris.
I can't picture it.
Because I figured
Like
Gris,
sort of
she's
holding.
really big. Yeah, so holding you in one arm, cradling you. I'm assuming you're not like a huge person, right? You're not like 6 foot.
No.
Yeah, so it's like cradling you with like one big buff arm against like her chest, and the other one is like up, shielding from like the debris.
Perfect. And so, but we cut back to Xander, Void, and Kristen. So Void is looking at Xander and is confused. Like, are we not pushing through with the? If we're not pushing through with the plan, and Void looks completely lost.
New plan, and one I think you get more out of this time around. And frankly, at this point, I'll take you over Bacchanal. So, let's make a deal. You, right now, as of this moment, there are 2 or 3 people in the room who know the secret as to how this happened. Consume that secret, take it away, and you will be the only one who knows it. And that is power. And consume as you do, turn Bacchanal and its hunger in on itself and consume that too.
And Void looks at you and they say, you know, if this happens, I won't be a little god anymore.
And Xander kind of quietly and then sort of says something to themselves and then turns and looks up at Void and says, you know, with their, like, as sort of light starts to crack through them and sort of the voices start to come back. Miracles happen every day. And then invites Void in to start the process.
And so when that happens, Void separates into all these different tentacles that wrap around both you and Ismeria. And we just see really, really quick flashes of all those memories. We see both Eli and Isabella over the plans of the Bacchanal pinpointing like parts of the city. And we realize that the two of you were trying to destroy the city to get to something underneath it. And you realize all of this was to get to the heart of the city and expose it to the Corp so they could access it. And so as that memory gets eaten up, we see Void becoming stronger and stronger, and it reaches out towards the Bacchanal, and we can feel it pulling in the energy, sucking it into itself. And as we cut back to Grist and Mary running through with CU close behind, I think with the time we have enough like for everyone to give me like one last shot of what they do, and then we can have like one quick epilogue probably. So I want to start with, I feel like Grist, you should lead the action. Like, so you reach the core of the Bacchanal, and it's this huge, like just to help you along, there's this huge thrumming core that's like moving and spinning. And Mary, you can see like all of these elementals, all of these hollow ghosts like screeching on the inside, parts of the spirit realm breaking through it. It's just this mess of power that the Corp didn't know how to control. What do you do, Grist?
I'm going to use a strong move to ask. I'm trying not to like have like a bad ending here, but the Aswang is emo and edgy, so I'm gonna have like basically I'm gonna try to like end this quickly, right? So I'm gonna ask, how do I drive you to despair? I want to drive this Leviathan to despair, so it basically like realizes that yeah, it's time to die, it's time to move on here, it's time to stop lashing out and given. That is a strong move I'm gonna do.
Awesome. And when you reach out into the core, you realize that underneath this, the reason why the Bacchanal came to life is because the lab was built on the bones of the city beneath it, and literally the bones of the Bacchanal. We see a moment where the Corp found the skeletal remains of this huge serpentine creature and took it and used it to like build this lab. And we hear a voice, and the Bacchanal says, I have despaired for a long, long time. Centuries, it feels like. I'm ready to rest, little Aswang. Will you do that for me?
Let's see. Kill someone who's asking me to kill them? I don't see what the problem is. Gris is gonna stride forward to the central like pulsating core with all like these like ghosts like screaming around. She is going to gently like lower Mary, like, you good? Cover your eyes. I don't want you to see this, Mary.
Chris, did you literally just cut off my arm?
Chris is just gonna go. That's beside the point. Okay, that was necessary. You're still my little sister. And speaking of which, can we say that maybe like on the way here, Gris is like use like a tourniquet, like wouldn't have let Mary like bleed out. Like,
yeah.
Okay, cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like there's a spectral arm that's starting to grow there, right? Like a ghost
cool.
arm, right? Like the memory of the arm. Anyway, okay. And then what
That's
happens?
And then Gris steps forward with her like back to Mary now, like facing the heart of this dying Leviathan, and just says, "You know what, Mary? You can look if you want. This entire time, all I've ever wanted to do was protect you, and I failed. I'm sorry." And she steps forward and unfurls, like we saw during episode 1, callback bookend time, like a big bone whip, like comes out of her arm, and she like straightens it. It becomes taut, and it pierces through the center.
And as that happens, there's this huge crackling sound, the static, the sound of the ocean. Gris, do you want this to be the time where the water rushes through?
Hell yeah, let's do it. Escape sequence, everyone. Yes.
Absolutely. And so as that happens, the Bakunawa's soul starts to disintegrate and starts to tear. And right before the moment that it lets go, and there's this sense of relief, you see one of the hollow ghosts turns to look at you, and it's Rose. And she just smiles. And she says, "When you return, you have to tell what's left of me that," and then it disappears.
No! Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, Grist looks at that, pauses as like all this shit is like falling down around her, the water's starting to gush in. Is River's ghost there too, or is River cool? Like, is River okay? Okay,
River's
good.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah. Don't worry. This is just to explain all of Rose's weird abilities. So
got it. Cool.
But yeah,
so Grist just says, I'll pour one out for you. And whip comes back.
And then so I think at this point, as Void starts to consume the Bakunawa, Void is very quickly like becoming stronger and stronger. And Xander, you can feel this little god is no longer so little. Is quite truly godlike as it feeds on all of this power, all of these secrets, all of this hunger. But Void turns to look at you, and she kisses you, and she says, "I do like this facade, maybe a little more than Eli. Is there one last thing you want to say to Void before we cut to the epilogue?
I don't think there's anything they say. But when Void sort of leaves with that hunger and that secret, and as they kind of leave, I think, because Eli sort of, like, Eli's gone now, so Xander is the only thing left. I think, like Xander's eyes sort of return back to normal as Void leaves. I think the last thing that we see from Xander before we enter a proper epilogue is a second set of eyes appears again, just like sort of flickers into existence kind of weakly and then closes. And we'll get to that later.
Awesome. And so I think there's a moment, like, as Void pulls away, where the Bakunawa at this point like violently crushes itself from the water, but right before it gets to the three of you, you can sense Void violently push you out, saving you, and then it all fades to black, like from that sudden moment of action. And yeah, I know we have a hard stop at the top of the hour, so maybe just super quick, like just a flash of where we see your character. It doesn't have to be a full epilogue. Where do we see Ismeria?
I think we see Ismeria I think we see like a very quick montage of them leaving the haven as always, turning to different animal forms. They're kind of like back to like their old self. And I think they're doing their rounds, and I think this one is going back to the lab because the Bakunawa is still a creature of the earth, and it's their job to remember the creatures of the earth. So I think like even the Bakunawa is passed on, but there's still bits of it, and there's what they remember, and then they just work at taking those bits and then bring it back to themselves. And then I think the last shot we see of them is like call back to the opening shot to the opening episode, them flying back as a bat, but this time they're not gonna stand outside of the ramen shop if Chris is there. No, they're gonna go in there and eat their ramen. Now that they've gotten rid of like their biggest anxiety, which is the horrible person in them. So that's gone.
Yeah, actually, okay, so do we want to have the last shop to be everyone at the ramen shop at the Haven? Is that what we're gonna see, or do people have a different idea for the epilogue?
I like
love
that
but
a lot.
Can we have the last shot be the ramen, like everyone in the ramen shop? But I kind of want to know what everyone does immediately before they get
Sure.
like I want to know where, like, the place where they were that they left and then arrived at the ramen shop after. Yeah,
Sure. So let's do a really quick, Kristen. Where were you before you reached the ramen shop?
There, Kristen was at a block party because it was a rainy night, and they're making a dome that's keeping the rainfall from the block party.
Perfect. And what do we see of Xander right before?
Xander is, I think, back in that that same shot of like that kind of abandoned and broken down like auditorium thing. And there's, I think, a moment where that second set of eyes sort of opens up, closes, and something sort of peels away. Because part of Xander's that last move is performing miracles. One of the options you can choose is, well, we went with two, I think. One, unleashes something dark. Void hunger is going to be a thing to deal with on another day, but new gods will awaken. And I think as Xander sort of sits there, the little god of new beginnings kind of detaches from him and then sort of just kind of perches on a shoulder before kind of fading back into wherever it's going next.
And I think there's one shot of like behind you, the little god of better times, just like watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what did we see of Grist before?
Grist is fully visiting, like we see her in the middle of a cemetery, maybe one that she has made, actually, because I'm not sure if like stone and earth cemeteries are so common anymore, but she has dug several empty graves, quite a few actually on this plot of land. We see a lot of like freshly overturned like earthen graves with like unmarked stones, one for each person she's killed in the name of the Corp. And she stops in front of the final one, looks down, pours a shot of really, really good whiskey over it, and lays down a single rose.
Awesome. And then what did we see of Agatha? I'm sorry, of Mary.
I think Mary is also, this is probably maybe before Ismeria went to pick up the pieces. But Mary with Siu, you just see Mary like kind of like draw her hand back to a close, and then there's like the remnants of some blue flame, and she turns to Siu and says, "That is the last of them. They're all in Sulat now." And then when they start walking away from the site, basically she was sending all of them back, like the spirits that were trapped there. her ghost arm that was growing out of where her real arm is missing reaches out just very slightly, and it grabs the sleeve of Siu's coat.
Awesome. And I think the last shot we see is of everyone at the ramen shop, and the new proprietor of the shop is River, who stands there setting up and there's like one bottle of whiskey that just has like a marker over it, like a marking of like for Rose on it. And I think that's the last thing we see. So we have hit way past our time. So sorry everybody for the technical difficulties and all that. Usually we're gonna have a proper outro, but we are really running behind schedule. So instead I'm gonna say I'm very happy to set up a thread for everybody on my on Twitter, so you can find me at Semper Hiccup, and then I'll introduce all of our awesome cast members and our producer Agatha, so where you can find us and where you can find Balikbayan. So thank you so much everybody for joining us, and we'll see you all hopefully next time. Hopefully there'll be a new show, but definitely tune in for Asians Represents. There's awesome stuff happening here all of the time, no matter what. All right, so thank you so much everybody.